super ash.
Oh, dog, I meant to ask you for some lotion too, dog.
Yeah, but I mean, we're already rolling.
I don't know, dog. Come on, yo.
Please stand by while the Two Guys and a Girl podcast takes a much-needed break to lotion them ashy knuckles.
Nah, not when you glowworm shade like me.
Glowworm shade. Yeah, we got it.
We're in this clear tan over here. We're all gonna smell so nice though.
Oh yeah. Good old German, baby.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Two Guys and a Girl podcast. I am your host, Mimi, and to my left, we have the mixologist, Wally B, with his fancy bling on today. Digging the gold, bro.
Oh, maybe that was that's what was shining in my eyes. Maybe it was the ice. It was freezing me.
It's not ice.
There's no ice on there. There's no ice. It's all just shiny
I have a
gold.
lot of gold-colored jewelry. None of it's precious metals.
Were you saying jewelry?
Jewelry.
Save him. No.
We're not doing that again this week. No, we're not doing that. You say jewelry however you want.
Jewelry.
Yeah,
there you go. That's what I was trying to say.
And then this smart ass over here, Big J.
Yes.
I'm usually good at that kind of stuff. So, like, get the fuck out my grill. It's like, nah.
There he goes saying psych now when he really means it.
Oh, I don't.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Two Guys and a Girl podcast. Mimi had an interesting topic that she wanted to discuss this week.
Yes.
Hell of an intro.
I don't know about interesting, but just something that was on my mind because my parents both retire this year.
Woo.
Yeah, I know. But it's like, and then it got me thinking, like, you know, I mean, we're at an age all where we're not anywhere close to retirement, but it's like I wonder, like, sometimes, like, what when I'm their age and ready to retire, if that's ever even going to be a thing, like, for us when we get to be that age. Because with them, like, in our parents and our it's like we were saying earlier, our parents and grandparents generations, like, you know, they either used to work for, like, you know, had unions and had, like, companies that had pensions and all this other stuff, and they had Social Security. So when you had this time to retire in your life, you had this sort of understanding that there was going to be something there in the background to help you. So if you wanted to get another job, you could, but you wouldn't have had to, because whatever your retirement stuff was coming in was going to be enough for you to sustain yourself on. But I mean, like, we're never going to see a penny of Social Security. Like, we pay into it, but we're never going to see it.
You ever like catch somebody like around your parents' age or something saying like, oh man, like talk about the good old days being like the 50s and shit. That's what they talk about, yo. Like that's what shit was back then. Like,
well, because your pay was in proportion to, like, you know, inflation and the prices of, like, homes and education. Like, the shit is so out of balance now.
And shit, a brand new Mustang cost like $6,000, something crazy like that. I talked to multiple people that were like, yeah, you know, back in my day, I graduated high school and I decided I wanted to go to college, so I flipped burgers for a summer to pay my tuition for the next year.
Right, because like a semester of college would cost you like $500. Yeah, you know, and now it's like the way that things have the inflation of things compared to what, you know, the average job, like, salary and hourly payment is, it's not proportionate. And so it's so much harder for people like us in our age group to save up money and to get out of our parents' houses and to, you know, either buy a house or literally anything that our parents and grandparents could do. Granted, it wasn't easy. Like, they obviously had to work for what they had, but for us, comparatively speaking, it's so much harder. So you almost have to be more cognizant of it at this age and start saving up for stuff and finding other ways to supplement income once you are ready to retire.
Yeah. And now people that age in that age group that, you know, that grew up like that and that are now older, they the ones buying up all the damn houses right now.
Yeah, it's like, well, I have my summer house up in Maine, and then I have my, like, winter house down in Florida, and I'm like, that's nice. That must be nice.
They buying up all like the regular ass houses too. You know what I'm saying? Like that's part of the crisis right now. The real estate crisis is that like boomers are really, really active in the housing market right now, more than usual.
Yeah.
And we can't buy no houses because, like, you know, everything you just talked about.
So what is their? So you said both of your parents are retired. What is their idea of what a since you were talking about that, what is your idea of what a productive day looks like? If you're not working, you're not going in every day. You're not like on some sort of timeline or deadline for something, or your obligations are now fewer. What is a productive day looks like? Because I remember whenever we were on lockdown for those 2.5 months last year, and I was was it last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
I know, we're stuck in like a time warp.
Is it become a situation of like what a productive day to me was just different, because it was like before it was I got up, I got dressed, I went to work. I worked at a job for 8 hours and I came home and I either did laundry or cleaned up or I got ready for the next day and get some sleep. I had nowhere to be. I had nowhere to go for like 2.5 months. So what does that even, what's a productive day? What did I get accomplished today? What did I like finished off this series on Netflix that I was on the to-do list? It's like, I always wonder with people retired, because my mother retired recently too. I always wonder with retired people, what does a productive day or a fulfilling day look like? Because I feel like we, society-wise, we filled in that time with something.
A lot of people like my grandmother retired, her mom, like she was not doing nothing for a while, and then like she had this random job at Walmart where she was like demonstrating a Swiffer in the front of the store.
Yeah.
And she did that for one day and was like, you know what? Nah, I ain't
good.
like, you know, I finished working, it's cool. But then my grandfather, on the other hand, had like 5-6 jobs after he retired in like the early 90s or something like that. And he stopped working till like 2012 or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Like my parents just by themselves are going to be two very different experiences. Like my mom, I know she's probably going to take some time off, maybe for a few months, and just kind of enjoy not having to, you know, be on like a tight schedule anymore. But my mom's one of those people that just cannot sit still to save her life.
That's my grandfather.
And so she's already talked about it. She's already talked about finding a part-time job doing something, you know, even if it's just either maybe going back and helping with being a teacher's aide, or, you know, something, maybe going and getting like a part-time job at like a grocery store, stocking shelves or something, like just something to fill the time. But then she also wants to travel. You know, she's got all this like list of places she wants to go. And so she and her husband will be able to finally just pick up and just go on a trip somewhere for like a week or whatever. But my dad, on the other hand, he is so excited. His whole entire basement basically has been transformed into a woodworking station. And he will spend his days building guitars and mandolins.
Oh, what?
Yeah, that's what.
Building guitars though.
Yeah, that's what he's always been passionate. I mean, he's played guitar, but a lot of string instruments for years and years.
It's crazy how much you two don't really know each other.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because there's certain things that he would be super interested in that you don't think is all that important, but for him it's like because I know whenever I used to come over, you used to have like instruments and stuff over, and like it's just funny. It's just funny when the intersections like cross, and it's like you like he'll know it, and then you'll just be like whatever, because like I said, it'll just be innocuous. But yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, it's okay. But yeah, like the majority of Dad's time will be spent, you know, building mandolins and guitars. And doing some travel, because he also wants to do a little bit of traveling as well.
Wally, I don't know how your anxiety is set up.
Trash.
But no, I'm talking about from like this pure application of it. But like for me, my anxiety is a little different. So when Mimi posed this question to me in the break room about like what she was going to talk about, I got anxiety even when she said it. Because I'm like, not because I'm like worried about what the retirement looks like and all the rest of that, or I haven't planned for it and all that. It's not that.
Yeah.
I never pictured growing to be that old, to be making those decisions. My brain never went there. Like,
Damn.
by the time I was like, so a day that sticks to me and what kind of, I guess, is the crux of my anxiety on this is I was in elementary school. I was in 6th grade. I was at the lunch table. There was this kid, I won't say his name. He was sitting across from me. It was quiet. Normally that day, you know, when you're at the lunch table, it's kids. They're talking, going
Everybody
back and
rapping,
forth.
joking
Yeah.
with each other, freestyling.
Or eating or something like that, or just having some sort of thing going. That day was unusually quiet, but it was almost like everybody got the message to be quiet. It wasn't like 2 people on the table weren't talking. Like nobody at the table was talking.
Yeah.
It was like a table full of like 6 or 8
It
people.
wasn't one of them days where the teacher got up in front of the cafeteria with a microphone.
All right, everybody. Hip on lip. Nobody talks.
Yeah, you know what's so funny? I'm like, why was that even a good idea? Like, why are you gonna try to have kids not talk because they were saying we were getting too loud? I'm like, you have a whole room that's dedicated to, like, as long as like we're not like,
And if it's a cafeteria, the sound's gonna echo. So I mean,
as long as we're not bringing anarchy and burning trash
I
cans.
think it does go back kind of like I mean, it seems silly for a lunchroom full of kids, but like crowd control, because like we all know how out of control a cafeteria full of a bunch of kids with like 10 teachers around can get.
yeah.
It's just one of them things where like all the adults in the room know how kids act. You know what I'm saying? Like that's their job and their profession, and these kids don't know nothing. So like when they like try to get people to quiet down, I don't think it's much. It's as much y'all making too much noise. It's this is going to escalate if we don't nip it in the butt.
Yeah.
Like usually, you know what I mean? Like the loud part is annoying, and like a lot of teachers don't like it, but it's really more so they can actually keep control of that group of kids. I think, you know what I mean?
No, I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, let me just get back to my story.
Yeah, my bad.
No,
Yeah.
you're good. So, yeah, it was quiet, and then regular class happened, and then we all got out. I had the kid that I was talking about, he happened to he had biked to school every day because he lived close. I took a bus. I heard like that Saturday that he went across. If you've ever been towards the Redskins Stadium, well, not Redskins, but watch a professional football team stadium, FedEx Field or whatever. I don't even think it's called that anymore.
Oh yeah, they about to change it right
Yeah,
now.
but
Who cares?
yeah, but there's like a busy intersection that you know.
I'm sorry. Mimi gave me a look. They dropped that stadium in the middle of the hood when ain't nobody wanted there.
It's true.
So fuck that. That's all I was saying.
It was awful.
You know, fuck the team and everything too, but that's not what I was saying. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. The kid used to bike to school every day.
Yeah. So he biked to school every day, and so then he ended up getting hit by a car and dying.
Oh yeah.
My perspective on like life after that changed, because then I realized like that's like that, not that it could have been me, circumstances are different, but it's like his life wasn't guaranteed. And I'm pretty sure when I saw him eating lunch, he didn't know that was going to be the last lunch he ate.
Yeah.
He didn't know that was going to be the last time he was going to get on his bike.
Yeah.
So for me, I never looked at things as like that time was guaranteed. I never looked at it like, oh, I'm going to automatically make it there just because, you know, X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
You know, and then things like what happened with us last year make it so that further reinforces that. And then we also knew a guy named Lil Nick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
that was when we were younger.
Yeah, it just keeps, every time I turn around, it's like I can't allow myself to think that far, because then I don't picture it being that sort of guarantee that I'm going to make it there. Now, do I think I should be irresponsible and be like, I'm spending all my money in my savings and my checking, and I'm, no. But I do think it's a situation where I've never looked at life under those circumstances where I need to be checking off all these things. I'm always like pictured as a boulder I'm pushing uphill. And everybody pushes it uphill a little differently. Some people's boulders are larger than others. Some people's weight are heavier than others. But then I always looked at it like, let me make it uphill first, and then I'll figure out what I do once I get up there. And I look at retirement as, once you get to the top of the hill, before you roll back down, what do you do there? But like for right now, I'm too busy pushing this boulder up here. I can't think that I'm going to get it up there though. So that was my thought.
Anxious shit, ain't it?
Yeah. And I get where you're coming from with that angle, but I guess I would push back only a tiny bit in this way, thinking of it in this angle of retirement. Like, the idea of retirement is not a one-stop shop. Like, that is something that you don't just do. Retirement is something that it's kind of like building the foundations of a house. Like, you've got to do it piece by piece and make sure that it's solid enough to hold you up, to hold the rest of the house up. And it's not to say that if you spend your life preparing for retirement that it's going to guarantee you're going to get there. But what you don't want ultimately is to have made it there and have nothing. The idea with preparing for retirement is because you're supposed to be, in theory, older, physically less able, maybe you've got some health issues you're dealing with, that you're going to have some kind of safety net, financially speaking, to help you through that, so you're not, every day isn't a struggle. And so that's why planning for retirement as early as you can is the better option, because it gives you a longer time, a deeper pool to work with, financially speaking. So when you are older, you don't have to worry about, well, shit, where's my next meal going to come from, because I didn't save for this. Because that happens all too often. People just don't think about it that way, and then they find themselves at retirement and there's nothing for them because they didn't plan for it. And then every day is a struggle. So that's the only thing. Like, I get where you're coming from, but I would almost kind of challenge you to think of it in a different way. Like, the boulder at one point won't be the thing that you need to worry about.
I mean, I think it's an easy, if you don't think about things that way, I think it is, you can push back that way. I think if your brain isn't hardwired to think the way I'm talking,
mm-hmm.
then yeah, everything you said was perfectly logical. Everything I'm talking about is perfectly logical from my end, because that's what I've dealt with in that sense. But like, I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I have no logical way of pushing back against what you said. It's just whenever you're thinking about things that way, that's like, what you're talking about isn't guaranteed. Neither is the day tomorrow. So it's like, I'm not, so for me, it's hard to even go there. So that's why I said, I don't think about it in that sense. But like I said, is there certain things in place? Yeah, for me going forward. And is there more I could be doing? Yes, but I don't necessarily, like, I don't plan in that way.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Wally? We ain't been talking the whole time.
Yeah. I'm glad you started that off by saying this is the way your anxiety is set up. Because a lot of times, like, when people experience, anxiety, it's anywhere from like real heavy to like crippling in that range. The what they say, it kind of distorts your perception of things, and it causes you to worry either about things that aren't as serious as you're spinning yourself in them into being. You know what I'm saying? Like, the fact of the matter is, like everything you were saying is true, but we all, like, when you make that like your focus, it like hampers your ability to like move yourself forward. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'll start, I guess the rest of my thoughts by checking my privilege at the door, like I love to do, because I had a grandfather who got it up out the mud at a young age with young babies, and like, did all of that stuff and like saved the right way, invested his money the right places, worked, got, his retirement set up, like everything, like he did everything the right way and knew all the right steps to take and learn that stuff, right? So like, I had examples of that. I had examples of really old people all the time throughout my childhood, you know what I'm saying? And like, when I was younger, I didn't have the understanding that like, if you were black, you were just gonna live like shorter, you know what I'm saying? Whereas a lot of people kind of like already grasped that by the time, they were young kids. I didn't have that because I had a lot of examples around me of like black folks, no matter where they came from, what kind of environment, thriving, getting to like a solid place and like living out their days just like anybody else. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So like, those are the things that I had, and I always picture myself being an old man. You know what I'm saying? Like all my friends do. You know what I'm saying? I've always pictured myself getting into my 70s and wearing like leather slippers that smell kind of weird because they just fit my feet the right way, you know, and stuff like that. In terms of like saving money and stuff like that, though, you know, I got a few. So part of I didn't have all the right tools, you know, early enough to really like start saving and putting away money, and like I just didn't know how to manage money at all.
Right.
I started learning that stuff like right before my dad passed, so I couldn't like, you know, he was the money guy in the house. He knew all the money stuff. He took care of all the like bills and everything. My mom, you know, she had to manage for a while and get better, but like I didn't really learn much after that. I had my grandfather to, you know, rely on for certain things, but it took me a long time, and I'm still not like there, you know what I mean? I still got like my little holes I'm trying to dig myself out of, but I know that one, I'm gonna get old and I'm gonna make sure it happens. And then two, I know what steps I do need to take. I'm just trying to like get to the place where I can like start implementing little tools in place to save money and invest in all that other stuff. So like I've always had like more positive view on that kind of stuff, even if like everything around the situation, the way they treat retirement and saving money and how much stuff costs and all that other stuff that affects our lives is going on.
Yeah.
You know.
So.
Oh, I didn't have anything else to add. Did you guys have anything else to say on the subject?
I mean, I guess the only thing that I would say, like, I guess to draw this topic to a conclusion is, you know, it's never too late to start learning how to, if not at the very least, you know, turn yourself into a millionaire. At the very least, there's always programs out there that you can look into and skills that you can learn to help figure out either how to, like, you know, consolidate your debt, how to invest wisely, you know, life tips that you can, like, corner cutting with things that are for spending your money or not spending your money, and how to use credit cards properly.
Set up your taxes, your W-4 and all that.
Right. And so, I mean, there's lots of different little things that you can do that can help you improve your financial situation. It doesn't have to be this, like, monumental thing overnight.
That's
like,
what people get caught up in. Is what I found.
They think it's got to be this big thing. Like, I got to do this now. And
I would like add up all my little debts or whatever and have this real big ass number, because I thought that like if I had the real big number, I could like work towards getting that amount of money to pay it all off, and it's never gonna happen that way.
Yeah, unfortunately, even in schools, like we're not taught how to manage money properly.
Only thing they taught me is how to write a check when I was in 4th grade. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that was just something the teacher did. It wasn't in the curriculum or nothing.
Yeah, and you may get introduced to what a credit card and a debit card are, but how to properly do all that stuff, like money management, is an important life skill that most of us, unless we have a good example at home, most of us don't get those skills. We have to learn that shit like on our own, and that's how people get stuck in credit card debt that they can never find themselves out from under.
The people who really get that stuff from their home are the people that like most of the time are the people that grew up with a lot of generational wealth, because, you know, how do you get to having all that generational wealth? You can amass a lot of money, but it's really about how you spend, manage, and save it. You know what I'm saying? So like that getting passed down, like people are armed with that, and that's why you see these like real privileged kids that like you think they out here like fucking up and blowing money and all this other stuff, but like you look at them again like years down the road and they fine because like
they manage their money right.
Yeah.
Like I was very
You know
lucky in the sense that my dad has been in banking for decades.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you know, from a young age, I had an at-home example of how to manage my money. And so, you know, I was very lucky in that regard, but it's never too late to learn, and it's never too late to figure out like how you can help yourself improve your financial situation. Like, it's never too late. There's always an option somewhere for you.
Everybody, if you don't think or you don't know, like go look at your, you know, what benefits you get through your job if you get any, and like make sure that you contribute something to whatever kind of retirement thing they got, because like most times it's free money because they'll match a certain percentage. Like that's what just most companies do that offer that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So, you know, you might be missing a little bit of money out your paycheck, but it ain't, you know, depending on what percentage you choose, it won't be too much. And then like you look at it years down the road and you have a nice little nest egg, and that's how that's just supposed to go.
Yep, it'll come back to you. So yeah, that was kind of how I wanted to talk about that a little bit today. So
Okay. The next topic was something that you had talked about, right, Wally, as far as internet trolling and harassment.
Yeah. Internet trolling and harassment's out of control, man. Like, you know, a lot of people have, you know, a somewhat antiquated view of what, like, you know, trolling and online harassment are, because like it's fairly new. You know, there wasn't an online to harass people with in the early and mid 90s. So
No.
a lot of these terms, like, you know, the term troll specifically, like they weren't coined until like the early 2000s, late, like, you know, I guess 80s, 90s, 2000s, because they kind of like came from other places. But the use of the word troll as it's used didn't come around until like, you know, 20 years ago.
yeah.
So, you know, a troll is a person who posts like nasty stuff,
Yeah.
you know, in order to get a negative rise out of people.
Yeah.
You know, they want to like manipulate perceptions or anything like that. Anything you're doing to like sow negative discord on purpose, usually for the form of entertainment, is a troll, right?
Yeah. Being mean for the sake of just being mean.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, on the surface, that seems like, oh, like little asshole 13-year-old kid sitting on his computer just typing stuff, right? But like it goes way, way deeper than that. You know what I mean? Because like we talk about online like bullying and stuff like that, and all that online harassment and stuff, and it's usually like small scale, individual to individual, group to individual. But like this shit goes all the way up to like, you know, coordinated campaigns that generate millions of dollars in revenue and hundreds of millions of like YouTube views.
Yeah.
All in the name of hate. You know what I'm saying? So like
Yep.
we're talking about the personality traits that like push people to like be inside the house and like, you know, that kind of stuff. And just on the opposite side of like the people that are like really loving, caring people. Some, you know, they like the people around them. They always have positive energy and stuff like that. And like the complete opposite of that is like literally a troll.
Yeah.
Someone who engages in Schadenfreude and shit like that. And, you know, basically a lot of these psychologists have determined that there's a dark triad of personality traits that trolls or people who engage in that behavior usually exhibit: sadism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. The total disregard for like other people and finding enjoyment in their suffering.
That sounds about right.
So like you got, it's just crazy how these things happen, because I'm gonna kind of walk you through from there to like these really big hate campaigns that have happened, right? So you got people operating with that kind of mindset first, and then you have the internet, this vast playland where people can just say whatever the hell they want, right?
Yep.
We're mainly talking about stuff like Twitter, Facebook, other social media sites. And, you know, there's a few tactics that people engage in that I feel like are probably important for people to know. Just some definitions, you know what I mean? So you know when you see them.
Go for it.
I'll just start at the top of my list: astroturfing. So astroturfing is when some mis or disinformation gets out there, and a network of bad faith actors amplifies that information as if it were started in a grassroots manner. An example of that is before the 2020 election, when a lot of black folks like completely turned on people like Kamala Harris because some of the stuff that was coming out about her that we're hearing. And we find out that like that whole Russian troll farm that was operating in 2016 and ended up doing the same thing in 2020 was amplifying the hell out of a lot of these negative stories about Kamala Harris and trying to dissuade, and other stuff that was trying to dissuade black people from voting, period. You know what I mean? So
Can I just, and like I said, not trying to take away from your point, Kamala Harris had a lot of things going on also that were caused the downfall of her thing, called downfall of her campaign.
It was insignificant compared to this stuff. Like literally, it was like there's data points on it. That shit was insignificant compared to like what I'm talking about.
What do you mean by like
we're talking about
Like
this,
in scale.
Yeah, this stuff influenced people like 1,000 times more than any of the things that were actually happening in real life that like may or may not have been good for her image or her career or things that she'd actually done. This stuff is what turned the tide because of the amount of eyes it has on it. The amount of impressions that these stories and these headlines get.
But she's not good. She's not a good politician even now. Every time she does an interview, she's trending in the worst way possible. Like I'm not saying these things don't matter. Yeah. I'm just saying that she's not good at what she does.
Okay, we're gonna just move forward because like you have been astroturfed, so I just want you to know what that is. So when you see it, you can recognize it. All right, like so there's a couple other terms here: sea lining. Confrontational practice of leaping into an online discussion with endless demands for answers and evidence. And this kind of ties to the first one, where people will bring up something, a legitimate concern about someone like Kamala Harris, something she did or said or somebody didn't like. And there's a couple people saying that, like, you know, given their position, like, I didn't like that she said this because of this thing. And then there's a bunch of people that jump in and they're like demanding all these answers about all this other stuff that may or may not be true that's like completely negative. And they kind of badger this person or wherever this comment section with these posts and amplify the message that way. And it starts to kind of settle in.
Like essentially making a bad situation way worse.
Right. So that ties into the cyber mob or dogpiling, and we all know what that is. Large group of accusers collectively tax a target through a barrage of threats, slurs, insults, and other abusive attacks. And that's like, you know,
just ganging up on someone.
That's some of the most common stuff we see, right? And then there's the dog whistle. Everybody knows what dog whistle is. Not really gonna go into that. The concern troll, where people pose as if they may or may not be fans of the person they're criticizing, and they openly criticize them under the guise of being concerned for them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, God.
So like most recently, Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas had a baby and they use a surrogate, and there's people concern trolling them about the health of the baby in that situation. Like basically they don't like that Priyanka Chopra married Nick Jonas and had a little brown baby with him. You know what I'm saying? And people's problem with it is they're like making up all these reasons, you know, concern troll. And then you got doxing.
Yeah, doxing is
publishing of sensitive information. Like, you know, we all know what that is.
And a lot of people get like, because I hear about it all the time on TikTok, like, where this person doxed me, and now my private information's out online and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, actually, no. More times than not, your personal information was out there. That person just happened to like steer everyone's attention toward it. Like, actual doxing is like, if you've taken all the necessary steps to keep your private information private and someone digs to find you and puts your shit out and makes it public, that is doxing. Right.
So like all those things are bad. The last one, like, you know, when some of these bigger like trolling incidents, that's what happens. And so, you know, with all those definitions in mind, I wanted to get to like some of the bigger stuff that's happened, because this isn't just like people saying mean things on the internet a bunch of times to somebody, you know what I mean? This is like, in certain cases, it becomes life-threatening.
Yeah, some people's actual lives and the safety of their families have come under threat from this kind of stuff.
There have been like examples of like scientists in certain country, you know, scientists that's in disagreement with the government gets trolled in a way using a bot farm with a bunch of like fake bad faith actors running Twitter accounts that are paid for by that state's government. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that is happening. So this guy, he runs this company called Bot Sentinel, and it basically monitors Twitter for like, you know, bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like fake accounts and all that stuff.
And even like the technology behind it assigns every account an actual score based on their Twitter activity and things they say and people they interact with and the things that they do, and like tells them if they're like, you know, an okay person, or if they're like sowing discord, or they're, you know, lying about stuff, whatever it is. So the way that it started is he was on Twitter on his own account, made a comment about something regarding Meghan Markle. I don't remember what it was. He like complimented her in some kind of way. And those Meghan Markle trolls that have been running around the internet for like 4 or 5 years now got in his mentions.
Oh, God.
And they started talking shit. And he was like, what the hell? And I don't know, at some point he posted a picture of his mother that he had restored that used to be black and white. He just wanted to show everybody, like, this is really cool. I have this picture of my mom. And they went in on his mother. They started going on his mother, calling her a gorilla and all this other stuff. Yeah, this is like, so that's how this started, right? He runs this company that monitors Twitter, and this happened on Twitter. So he's like, yo, like, I'm about to go John Wick on y'all. You know what I'm saying? So how this ended up, like his
Batman
report,
for the bots.
Yeah, exactly. So this report found that there was a group of about 80 or 90 what they call single purpose hate accounts. An account that's strictly dedicated, once you look through all the tweets, to like hateful content about like a person or subject, right? So these accounts, they'll have like, you know, they'll try to disguise it with their Twitter handle and the name and their bio and all this stuff. Some of them say, I'm a fan of the Duchess of Sussex and the Duchess of Cambridge. And they'll say that, but that, from what I've seen, that's usually code for I'm a bit concerned troller. You know what I'm saying? So it'll like, if you go through it and these people are just only hating on this one person. This report found that these 80 accounts are basically being run by like a group of 3 middle-aged white women.
Shit, of course.
Yes.
Of course. Why?
One of which who started a rumor about Meghan Markle having a fake pregnant, like wearing a moon bump, like when she was pregnant.
I heard about that.
So that was a huge thing. That shit, and can't even, like, it's probably going to be too much to go into like the British press and how they've amplified the trolling, which is even bigger than what I'm talking about. But all 3 of these women have YouTube channels that have amassed like $3.5 million in profits, and they're like making ad money, thanking YouTube for not removing their content. You know, and these things get mass reported, you know what I'm saying? Like in mass, and same thing on YouTube and Twitter. And YouTube doesn't really do anything about it. Twitter, I remember the last time one of these reports came out, they were like, yeah, you know, nice report and all, but we didn't see any coordinated hate. You know what I mean? So like these people are making this much money off of like strictly hate, and they really just hate the fact that a woman who like she got one black parent, like came into this like institution and shattered the entire country's like entire worldview of what was their entire schema, their entire way of life, the class system, shattered all of that stuff just by walking in the door and being who she was.
Yeah. And
there's literally like networks of people making millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they're allowed to continue doing that just in the name of hate, you know, causing like famous people like Meghan to like have miscarriages because they were so upset, like
from
between
the stress of all
that
of it
and what was going on with her family. You know, you got the situation with Priyanka Chopra that just started, but like, you know, come on, it shouldn't be as bad as it is. You got people like, I'm trying to think, Johnny Depp fans with Anna Heard, you know, that was another one that was like really bad, like on a slightly smaller scale, but big enough to like cause problems for her. You know what I'm saying?
Well, for her and for him initially.
Yeah. Both of them. Yeah. I brought up Meghan specifically because of like the person that she is. You know what I'm saying? Like they were like completely trying to rip her to shreds for stuff like being a divorcee.
Yeah.
Not having pure blood.
Or having
taking
like her
their prince away.
boobs seen on her what was the show she was on?
You talking about on Suits?
Suits?
Yeah. That
like,
show that's still
she's
making
indecent
her
and
money.
all this other stuff, and yeah.
Like
It got messy. It got really messy.
And then on top of all that, she's like been the hugest humanitarian, like, you know what I mean? Like she wrote a letter to Johnson & Johnson back in the day when she was like 11 or 12 years old, talking about the commercials that only depicted women washing dishes and stuff like that. And like the letter got to them, they made an actual change, and that like set shit forward from there. You know what I'm saying? So this is the kind of person she is. Apparently when her and Harry first met, one of their first dates, they like went on like a mission to like Botswana or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the kind of people they are. And they try to completely rip her to shreds. And why? It goes back to that very first thing that I talked about. Yeah, like
just hateful.
Like people usually troll because of identity. You know what I mean? If anybody's identity completely shatters what they know to be tried and true, and they also exhibit those personality traits, more than likely they're going to like go ahead and do that. And the things that push people into those like corners, unfortunately, are a little more widespread than they should be.
Yeah.
So like, you know, probably the end of my TED talk now, but I wanted to go into that because it's really important.
Well, good. I mean, because there's a lot of those terminologies that I feel like people have heard, but
don't exactly like,
they don't really have a full grasp of it. So it's good that you went over some of that stuff just to clarify like what it is, who does it, what it looks like, you know. So that is important stuff to know, especially in this day and age where technology is only going to keep advancing, and it's only going to become more deeply rooted in our day to day.
All this stuff is like here to stay. Like it's not going to be a thing where like, what's the solution to fixing this problem with nasty comments on Facebook? Take away comment sections? Like, no, that's never going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
that's
good
what
segment.
I've got. Thank you.
Yeah.
Important stuff.
So, was there anything else we wanted to discuss today?
The only thing left on the list was the thing I was telling you about in the break room about the Ghislaine Maxwell thing.
Oh yeah, because at first I didn't. When you were like, "Yeah, it's probably going to be declared a mistrial,"
I said it. There's a chance.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to be like this. So normally they try not to do that, because if you do a mistrial in this trial like this, you probably won't get as much participation as it pertains to witnesses, because once you share a very hurtful thing or a very traumatic thing that's happened in your life, you're less likely to share it again.
Yeah.
Since the integrity of what they did as far as coming forward wasn't called into question, as far as that, you normally don't want to have that happen again unless there's something that completely undermines the process. What I was telling you in the break room was that the fact that a juror had already had experience or had personally dealt with abuse and sexual abuse kind of...
And didn't disclose that
during... I think there was something between they didn't ask the way that or he disclosed it in an area where both lawyers would know. Some reason they don't in federal court, so it works differently. Like whenever normally when they do a jury pool, they would go over certain things so that nobody comes in with any prior prejudices. This was not done in this case.
Interesting.
And that, at least in the way that, because no defense attorney would ever allow this particular juror to be on there if that was the case. And you definitely wouldn't want that juror. That's part of the reason why is apparently this juror did an interview talking about how they had this prior experience and they used that experience to try to get other people in the jury to kind of see it their way. This is part of the reason why they normally don't want people to have those biases, because it's hard to take that bias out of a fair and impartial process. So it's still up to the judge's discretion or still up to like everybody else, but this would be the grounds for a mistrial. Mistrial meaning that they would have to do it all over again, not necessarily like what happened with Cosby where it's done it over, he can't be charged with it again.
Well, basically like it's going to take some more years, and in that time she still ain't fucking in jail and shit. Like they had the chance to like start all this whole train over just so they can keep it going.
I don't think she has bail.
You don't think so?
No, she never had bail.
Oh yeah, I'm tripping. She's like, I'm tripping.
She
my
was
bad.
denied bail, but
she doesn't have. So she would just be sitting.
Yeah,
like what's it? The only issue would be you wouldn't have as much participation if you were to do it again. Judging by statistics go, you don't have people bear all and say names the way that these witnesses did twice.
Yeah, you ain't about to go through like you ain't about to like stab yourself with a knife and then like be like, ah shit, that hurt, and then 2 weeks later be like,
got to do it again.
Yeah, because most of the time these women are told that you don't have to do this again.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
painful.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what they're going to do in that case, but I'm just saying it's important to say that this is a possibility, because a lot of people were caught off guard by the Cosby situation. But what's literally known back then, there were some people saying exactly what happened back then. Like there was normally this isn't done this way. There was a deal in place that's being completely ignored. And a lot of the times with people, when they report it, they get so caught up in the good and evil narrative because that's what sells. They don't necessarily get into what's the actual facts of the situation. Just like with the Rittenhouse situation, I, for the longest time, thought he killed 2 black people. I had no idea that that's not even what happened. But in order for it to sell, people have to be given a certain narrative.
They're like, he shot people. There was a protest that had to do with the way black people treated. So, like, why would it not have been black people?
Right.
But nobody ever really said that, right?
Yeah,
like,
so, yeah, it becomes that's I guess, even when it comes down to communication, going back to what you were saying about the internet and stuff, I would say it's not just limited to the internet when it comes down to all the things that you discuss. I think a lot of that comes down to mass media as well.
That's why I was saying all this stuff is intertwined in the real life. Because, like, you're right. Media is like the bridge a lot of times between, like, social media and, like,
Real
what you
life,
see with your own
physical stuff.
eyes. Because a lot of times you'll see something, and then you'll see something on social media, and then what you see on TV will validate one of the two. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's all like a cycle.
You have so many situations where people have like fake death rumors about them because that's how it kind of starts. But then, you know,
the hoax. That's another one. I didn't put that definition on my list, but that's another one of them things that like has been around since the 90s. At the infancy of the internet is the hoax.
I think we have to be just as far as with information is. That's why I wanted to clarify with the Ghislaine thing, because I wanted to make sure that people knew that this was a possibility, and that just because she was found guilty doesn't mean with the legal process there's other things that could pop up that can undermine that process. And this unfortunately falls under the purview of undermining the process of justice.
People go straight from guilty to like life in prison and skip all the in between shit. That's where their mind goes, and they're like, "Oh, she's guilty," and then stop caring about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think
like there's a lot more to it.
I think it's
like
interesting that jurors are allowed to make statements. Like I remember I was watching one of the OJ docs that were out, and they had some of the jurors on the jury speaking in the OJ doc, and I was like, well, hold on a second. Like, I knew that these people weren't a secret, but I did think that it was a little interesting that I'm like, not that they're not allowed to have an opinion. It just seems awkward that they get to let you behind the scenes in that way, and it's like,
I guess it depends on how long after that case the interviews took place, right?
Statute of limitations and secrecy.
Was this
and all
something
that
like
stuff.
that was made more recent, or was it like wild shit that was made in the 90s?
But like, no, this was that OJ doc was a recent one. But like I said, the Ghislaine thing just happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is jurors even
right.
like if we're sequestering jurors so that they're not getting information that could influence them? Then why are they like? I just think that should just be a complete independent process. That they shouldn't be allowed to say anything, just simply based off of if they do start talking. Well, and in this case, I'm actually kind of glad that she said something. They said something, because it's like I would never want somebody else to be in a position where that was the case. Like if I ever had to go on trial for something, I would never want one of my jurors to have a prior prejudice that affected the way they saw, my case.
Right.
So no one would ever want that.
People want to go back, and there's a big like push and pull between people that want to like progress into the future and people that want to go back and live in a Wild West and shit. And hey, Wild West winning, bro.
It feels like that sometimes. It really does.
Yeah, it does.
Mimi, and I know we closed the topic, but have you said that you had some nasty comments and stuff, but like how often do you think? Because I know things could be a little different for women than it is for guys. Like if I put a picture out there, they're not like them calves. You know what I'm trying to say?
I don't know if you noticed, but all the major hate campaigns I talked about that had to do with like a famous person, they were all women. Yeah. Anyway, my bad.
No, you're good. So like, was the full question like, have I?
Like, how often has that happened where somebody has gone on like a not necessarily smear campaign, but where you've gotten nasty? I mean, you're a public figure.
No, I'm not a public figure. No,
but like, well, how many followers do you have?
I'm almost at 14,000 followers now, but the thing, like, again, like I was kind of like, I've been up until very recently kind of like you, where social media in all of the forms has never really been a focal point of my life, but there was a time like several years ago where
you're knee deep in now. Like
well, now I am.
You're answering questions,
now
and
I
you're
am
getting
now.
a lot of people doing like Q&As and tell you their life story. So like how
and
much?
That must be where all them white people following our YouTube is coming from. All them new subscribers.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
I mean, listen, we're definitely riding her like a racehorse towards success.
We're gonna anyway. Anyway,
You're the Beyonce.
You're
For
our
the-
man Dingo. Flip the
I'm
script.
Michelle, and he's.
I'm Monsieur Candy.
Oh my, Monsieur Candy, shut up! My God. So with at least as far as recently with the TikTok thing, I have not had any issues so far with all of the content that I've put out so far. I've gotten predominantly very positive and constructive feedback, and for that I'm very grateful. Do I think that will always be the case? Probably not. If I keep playing my cards of growing a following and putting out content, at some point I'm sure I'm gonna step on that troll landmine, and I'll have to deal with it when it happens. But for me, the most significant like troll thing I ever had happen to me when I was still like heavily playing World of Warcraft back in the day.
Oh yeah, you never did tell that
we gotta
story.
do that,
I did get pretty deep into it for a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Nerd. I was a nerd. Yes.
Oh, you completely. Oh, I know this story now. You completely effed up.
I did. I was doing a dungeon and I was playing a new type of character build. I was experimenting with a new kind of character, and we were about to go into like the boss fight, like the final boss fight in this dungeon. And I accidentally started an incorrect sequence of events, and eventually like my entire dungeon raid party, we all died. And it was my fault because I hit the wrong button at the wrong time.
And what did the little 13-year-old say to you?
Told me that I should literally go throw myself off a cliff and fucking die. And I'm like, and I was like, I remember reading that line and going, no, he didn't actually say that to me. It's a game. This is a game. This isn't real life. This is a game. But no, he like meant it. Like, and I've even watching my husband play like his games online when he's like actually interacting with real people. Yeah. I have heard some of the most vile shit said to him, and he himself has said some inflammatory things to people. But I'm like, I guess I've never allowed myself to get so emotionally wrapped up in that world virtually.
I play without a headset.
I don't play with people. I don't play online anymore.
I don't play online either.
I don't play online anymore. I don't do multiplayer.
Yeah.
I don't do that shit anymore. I just do the AI. I play with the AI, and I'm happy, and I do my own thing, and it's cool.
2K my player, or like all them little Avengers missions just by myself.
Yeah. Because like if I'm playing a game, I'm doing that because I want to like escape. I want to be entertained. I want to have fun. Yeah, I want to relax. I don't want to be dealing with people's bullshit and hatefulness just because they have nothing else better to do, and they may think it's funny.
Competition and winning and shit.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my most significant thing. And from that point on, I have not played multiplayer online platforms ever since.
Dang, I'm about to ruin your life.
But here's the thing.
Get into this game that I've been playing.
No, but like, I guess when you say, and I wasn't when I said real earlier. I guess what everyone's concept of what real is, like in that sense, that what game was that again?
World of Warcraft.
D&D.
Dungeons and Dragons.
It is literally
Dungeons
like
and Dragons. No, it was World of Warcraft.
yeah, but then it's like to him it was real. You effed up his dragon dungeon.
Yeah, no,
raid,
I literally ruined his life.
Everybody seen that
I
video?
ruined his
video of that little kid that was sticking that remote up his ass and shit?
Yes, I mean, I think that was staged, but the sentiment is the same.
But like, I guess the scenario is that he was playing World of Warcraft and his game got deleted, right?
Yes,
like, yeah,
and he just
really be acting like that.
Lost his shit, like just broke down, like complete meltdown. And I'm like, I felt like that one was staged, but there are people out there who really do have that kind of emotional reaction to shit, either if someone like, I don't know, like hounds them on GTA and like just keeps like hunting them down and killing them every 5 minutes or whatever.
One you might be more familiar is when them videos where somebody girl delete their my player off the 2K joint and shit. And
yes.
He get on a play and she record behind him.
Yeah, and just loses it. Loses it. So no, that reaction has never been me, and for me, I've distanced myself from that because I don't want that in my plane of existence. I don't want that energy being brought to me.
Yeah, I think that's part of another thing is if everything you just said when you were talking about being online, it's exactly why I'm not there. It's exactly why I don't.
And that's fair. That's fair to not want any of that.
That's why I don't engage. That's why I don't think that. And you know what? And maybe that's my dismissive attitude towards it comes from the fact that I see where it can be beneficial and I take it in those sort of slices, but I don't take the whole cake in because I look at it like there's a lot of lies, there's a lot of misrepresentation.
You saw all this shit up front, like at the beginning, like when the internet was first a thing. The first kind of things you saw were like, you know,
we all did. We all got to see
email
all that.
scams, phishing, and fucking chat rooms. With,
I'm a
like,
prince from
creeps in it.
Nigeria, and I need your help sending me money.
But I always
Exactly.
find that it's, but like that's why I was trying to figure out like what forces people that want to go into that system if you don't have to.
So, for instance,
If you
like,
can turn it off, how come you just don't turn it off?
when did you first get a computer in your house?
Probably around 96, but it was like one of those like old Macintosh things.
I guess when did you first have a computer with internet on it? Because that's probably more important.
Okay, like probably like I said, 98, 99.
Yeah. Okay. And like,
I
was
would
it
have been like 10 or 9 at the time.
when in your house, was the experience that like the computer was someplace that like a lot of people kind of went back and forth to do different stuff, internet related or not?
It was something to collect dust
See,
until somebody needed to use it to write something, but it would or do a paper, but
So-
it wasn't
we
there
did it for
to.
a lot of like papers and stuff.
It wasn't there to do. It wasn't there to be like my dad wasn't like, oh, let me go talk to all my buddies online or do this. He didn't have buddies, so you didn't need to do
so what I'm getting.
Damn.
I guess that's where
funny
my indifference towards people comes from, you know, because that it that's what I say. Some of this stuff there's a reason for it.
So like I was asking that kind of stuff because in terms of the timeline, it's kind of the same as in my house. Like we got a computer in my house in like 95, and like that jump was on the internet a couple years later, like 97 or something like that. And we had America Online, and you could buy the joint at the grocery store and shit.
Yeah.
But so
You got
but
mail.
our computer
Hey,
and
you've got mail.
yeah, exactly. Our computer in our house was like a hub from the get-go. You know what I mean? Like from the start, my dad was like into gadgets and stuff. So like, of course, getting a home computer when they first become like more affordable enough for regular folks to buy them, he got one and a printer. And my mom used to be real into making greeting cards with the printer and stuff like that. And you know, my dad set me and my brother up with like AOL emails, and we could log in and go on the internet for stuff. Like, you know, schoolwork or whatever the hell we wanted to, you know, well, not whatever we wanted to, but like, you know, we were using the computer a lot from the get-go.
So your family,
We early adopters, I guess.
yeah,
like,
they used
in that regard.
You saw more value in it than what. Not just you, but your family saw
Yeah.
more value in it. See that I think
all
that's
of us, yeah.
I think that's what it is. It's like if somebody teaches you how to tie your shoes, but they teach you how to do it with the bunny ears, you're gonna do it with the bunny ears.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go off on your own and do something like, you know, because you don't know. Like that's not what you're being shown. Like
Right.
some people can get their own unique things, but a lot of some of the stuff that you get accustomed to, whether it's music, TV shows, like I watch stories, I watch, you know, the soap operas because that's what.
Your
That's-
granny was at the house
Young
with
and
your
the
grandmother or
Restless.
some shit. Like,
Yeah, because that's what
Bold and the Beautiful.
yeah, that's what my family was into.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not only do I like watch that. I won't watch other shows on other networks that are similar because that brand loyalty. It's that kind of thing.
You're a creature of habit, aren't you?
I think that's what kind of keeps it making sense to me. If I'm not of habit, I'm all over the place and I'm not doing any. That stuff isn't in order. I forget things. I come apart at the seams.
Okay.
And I think that's what keeps me together is that sort of structure and that sort of thing. Because I guess that's why retirement scares me so much.
Yeah.
The structure of who I am and what I was is now being taken away. The hell do I do with that?
Shit, for me, it's the exact opposite because it's like, dog, I get to do whatever the hell I want whenever. Like, I'm waiting for that day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't, at the points in my life, or in terms of like, my job and everything, my schedule was like the most like structured, and I was pouring myself into a bunch of different things and then, basically sleep. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think
At
you
those
have
points in
anything
my
to prove?
life, they were the worst.
What?
Do you think you have anything to prove
To who?
to anyone? Like, do you feel like you have anything to like get done where it's like where you need to like
Like a checklist, you mean?
not necessarily a checklist, but like a burning thing to like, I need to get this done so that not to just show these MFers, but just to be like, I need to get this done so I feel good that I was here kind of shit.
So I have attention deficit disorder, which completely distorts my ability to like do all that stuff in the right way, like place priority on things in that way. So like that's always been hard. I've never been able to like do it the way other people do. And then on top of that, just like my whole like personality type, like I'm an artist, you know what I mean? Like I need things to be a little messy, you know what I'm saying? I need to be able to dig through stuff and get my hands dirty. And like when I was doing stuff like, you know, working at Verizon selling cell phones, where I like, you know, sold stuff based on a script and, you know, had everything was like in black and white that I needed to do, didn't work out for me, yo. That was like when I worked at Verizon, besides the job that I have now, was me making the most money I ever had at a job, and it was the absolute worst experience work-wise that I ever had, like hands down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny? I'm the complete opposite. When I'm in my room and I'm working on my clients, you know, our blanket and our sheets and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I'm anal about that. Everything must directly align. Everything must be the same way each and every time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that's not unique, but some people could be like, oh, yeah, this side can be up a little more as far as sheets. No, I can't. I'm not.
Everything must be crisp and aligned and done. Yeah.
And that's some of that's a little bit of, you know, being anal about it, but some of it is a little bit about CYA. So that there's no exposure happening.
In our case, it's more or less to like limit.
Other factors.
It's a liability thing.
But
If your sheets are all over the place and you potentially have like a butt cheek hanging out or whatever,
Yeah.
like it's for you. It's a safe. I think a lot of it in your case is a safety, a personal like I feel safe that I'm doing everything in my space, just so everyone knows exactly what they're getting.
But I also want to make sure that I can always explain everything that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
Which is a completely different from an artist where you could just feel things and all the rest of that.
Like I could not be like if you know, if say like that's the general, like if you're a massage therapist, and like generally in order for you to like have a good long lasting career, be successful, and just have everything go for you, is you got to be like real organized in that kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm not gonna be no damn massage therapist. Like it's not gonna happen.
That's
like, nope.
perfect for me.
You
that
know what
works
I'm saying?
out so
Yeah.
well. It's like that's
So like when
what
you think
keeps
about
me
retirement, like to bring it back around, like
Yeah.
I like relish the opportunity to like just wake up and do stuff, and maybe like, in a couple of weeks from now, we're going to take a trip here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a couple of weeks after that, we might go do this deal. But today, right now, I feel like eating these hot dogs that's in my refrigerator before they go bad. And let me tell you something. When hot dogs go, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I could carry that conversation on for 8 hours and it wouldn't be an issue.
Too much uncertainty. Everything you just said was uncertain and
Yeah.
not well thought out or well put together. And then I also have a feeling like, for myself, until my burning desire to get something done goes away, I will never be comfortable in that space.
I don't, that's the thing. I don't exactly, I don't say I don't have that, because, you know, it's just that it comes and goes, and I can't just like reach out and, you know what I'm saying? Like when we were talking about like anxiety and ADHD like a little whiles back, and you were like, you know, I think I got ADHD and stuff, and I was like, you know what? After we left, I was like, I don't think you do. The one thing that you said that made me realize that you probably don't is what you were talking about, that burning thing in your head that's like, I need to get something done. Like most people with that, like that shit isn't there, yo. You know what I'm saying?
Or it was more prevalent when I was more as a teenager. But as I became an adult, that's what kind of I developed things that push me more towards where, like you said, the anxiety is probably more of an issue than
that's
like
my doctor like wanted to drag diagnosing me out a little bit further, because a lot of times anxiety and ADHD look like very similar because they share a lot of the same characteristics.
Yeah.
So he wanted to make sure that like that happening to me wasn't a result of, you know, that, you know, something making me anxious, which makes my mind go like that. It was just like, it's something that's been there since I was like fucking 8 or 9 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just there. It's not something that comes and goes.
What about you, Minnie? How do you approach the situation? Because no, it always happens this way.
I know, right?
No, I'm not doing it. Because I'll go back and I'll listen. And I'll be like, me and Wally went back and forth, and Mimi sat there and said, huh? Yeah, that's
Well, I mean,
right.
I'm listening and learning. This is fascinating for me.
Yeah, but like we're doing a pod.
I know.
I mean, but like, so earlier when I barked at you in the middle of me going through my definitions and shit, and you stopped talking. You stopped talking for like 10 minutes.
I stopped.
So like,
no.
Maybe we're just going.
I stopped talking because I didn't want to interrupt you. I didn't want to do the thing of.
Don't want to break your train of thought.
Yeah, break your
so
train
like
of thought.
my bark didn't come off as a bark.
No.
All right, cool. I thought it did.
Because what I was doing, why I was so antsy over here is because I didn't agree with everything you're saying.
You
but if I would have said something, it would have stopped you from getting all the shit out that you needed to get out.
Literally like 2 minutes before that, I was like, "What the fuck we just say?"
Yeah. So that's why I was letting you cook, just like when I let Mimi cook.
I want to make
you
sure
had stuff. You had points to get across, correct? I didn't imagine that.
Nah, I wanted to make sure that I didn't like actually bark at you.
No,
I was getting loud.
What I heard, what I heard in that was, yes, you were like, well, you probably had this going. It's like, oh, I need to get this thing out because I was failing to get to this point.
It's like when you gotta go to the bathroom real bad, and you like walk in the door, and your bladder's like, I can see it.
Well, you had
but you still gotta undo your belt and shit.
Well, you had information that didn't need me to contest it. Like my thoughts on Kamala Harris had shit to do with what you were saying. That's what I'm saying. And sometimes you have to take a step back.
We on the same page.
But back to Mimi.
Back to Mimi. Yes.
I mean, do I get anxious and stuff?
No, but how do you approach life? We're talking about how we approach life.
Jamal just talking about how like he approaches like there's just a lot of shit that could go wrong, and I gotta be able to manage it. And I'm just talking about how like I be riding through smoke clouds and not seeing nothing and shit.
The group is discussing their feelings, and somebody's not taking their turn with the share stick.
Come on, Ted Lasso.
I don't know. I think it really just depends on like whatever the situation at hand is. Like I don't treat every single thing the same way. Okay. Like I don't see everything as like an existential crisis, but neither do I see everything as this like minimal like poo-poo thing. I'll worry about it later. I think it really just depends on what's being presented to me at the time. Is it something that will affect me a week, a month, a year in the future, or is it something that's going to maybe last at most a week? And I'll deal with it that way.
I think y'all two gravitated towards each other as friends just because of the two like the complete fucking dichotomy between those two outlooks. Like y'all like needed each other apparently because like we were always talking about Mimi being woke and shit. I know there's a lot of stuff that you hear him talk about and stuff he goes through that you were just sitting there like, I had no fucking idea.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I'm saying? Just like general everyday life stuff. And then for him, like you've talked about how she helps you.
But here's where my issue comes. Here's why I wanted Mimi to say something there.
He doesn't think I'm emotional enough.
No. Let me get this. Let me get out what I'm going to say.
Sorry. Okay, sorry.
But what I was saying is I feel like you do this thing where you have your castle, and I've said this to you before, and you hide behind your gates, or you keep people away from you with your gates and stuff. And that's a defense mechanism. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It does make, when you don't come out from those gates and you don't engage at times, it makes it, when you have these anxieties, like about your singing or other things, it makes it difficult to understand where that motivation is coming from because I don't know you. Like, you can hear me say something that sounds completely sexist and crazy, right?
Yeah.
But if you know how my thoughts and feelings are about the issue, you can understand that that's not how he really feels.
That shit happen to me all the time.
But I know you. So even if you bark let's say you barked at me, you said something, wow.
Like the first episode I came here, remember we always talk about that shit?
Yeah, and then everybody else thought we was
because they didn't know.
Everybody thought like furniture was about to be moving, and that wasn't our relationship. That's never how.
Like we talk louder than this when we watching basketball.
Yeah, a guy's our communication is arguing over something. Yeah, and that's within the whole group.
Yeah,
so that's just how it happens. So, but like if I know that, but when it comes down to you, it'll be like I've never known you unless I corner you on a subject. You are not going to give your thoughts and opinions. You will keep them to yourself because you don't. But I feel like the last thing you want to be done is judged on things. Or am I wrong? Please tell me.
It's not a matter of like me not wanting to, because I mean, I'm going to be judged by stuff whether I want to be judged or not. So I don't really give a shit about being judged. But at the end of the day, I think my thing with the whole, like, to stick with your castle analogy is, I know that I have a tendency, like, if I were to not keep things locked down initially, I would let my emotions run what I do. And I know myself well enough to know that if I let my emotions run the show rather than like sitting back and analyzing things first and then figuring out the terrain and then going forward, I could end up getting myself into a situation that I don't want to be in. So for me, it's more like, let me take in as much information about the situation as I can so I can make the best decision that's either the safest or the most advantageous or the most constructive for me with the minimal amount of damage possible.
See, I'm not that calculating.
And see, I've had to learn to be that way because I was very squirrely brain when I was younger. And I knew that from that age, if I didn't figure out a way to control squirrel brain, life was going to be a lot more difficult for me than I wanted it to be. So I think that's why I've learned to first let me sit back and absorb as much as whatever's happening as I can. So then I can figure out, okay, what's the plan? What's the plan from here? Is it a minimal thing? Is it a maximum thing? Do I need to sweat this just a tiny bit? Or is this something that I need to like have a multi-step plan in place to deal with it as it happens?
I wasn't able to do none of this shit till I was like 25. The fuck?
How much of yourself? How much of yourself do you think? How much of yourself do you allow yourself to share with people in general?
You mean like an authentic self? You mean?
Yeah, because I find what happens at work with Mimi is people feel like they have conversations with Mimi.
That's true.
And they really feel, but Mimi doesn't say shit. And so what really ends up happening is people get a soundboard for what. But here's the thing. Here's also the thing that ends up happening. They don't really care what her opinion is.
Yeah,
that's not talk. Why they. Yeah, they just want to talk.
They just want to be heard.
But that's how most people are. Like most people just want someone to listen to what they have to say, and that's and she's perfect for that. The only thing is that drives me insane. Because all I want to know is what the other person is thinking, so I don't have to guess anymore. And so, but with her, that's what infuriates me with her is that she, unless you completely push up against the wall and be like, so do you really want to go with this whole like thing I've already paid for when it comes down to like the cover art? Or
tell me what you think about this thing right now.
Yeah, and then she's like, well, there's so many different things you gotta take into consideration, Jamal. And I'm like, no. Some things are just right here. Like, tell me.
Yeah. So I honestly, I don't have.
I understand. Like, if you're, well, you know, I guess I can't speak for Mimi, but for somebody like me, because I operate in a similar way in that regard, and like, in my mind, like, there is no situation where like, I mean, no, not there is no. There's a lot of situations where things just are what they are, but like most of the time when you ask me about some shit, there's like other factors, and I'm always gonna have to consider those because I can't stop them from coming into my vision.
You also do that too, Wally, where you'll share what you kind of want us to know, and that also drives me over the wall.
I always talk about protecting my peace and shit, and like at the end of the day, one thing that like when I really learned that like how to like do this and how to operate in order to make things better for myself, one thing I learned is like there's just some times where you know that going into this situation, the way you need to get out of it ain't going to gel with the other person, and it just is what it is. So like if I'm given, like remember we were talking about Zoom calls a little while ago, and I was like, at the end of the day, what you going to do if I'm making a face at something dumb you said? You going to stop the meeting? You going to like chastise me? You going to pick me out individually? Or you just going to keep on talking about these important numbers and figures you got to get through?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, if I prefer not to like, converse with somebody, I'm not going to do this shit. And like, it is what it is. And like, what are you going to do? Just keep blowing up my text messages? But like, if I need room to breathe, I need room to breathe, and I'm going to take it. And like, that's just how I like kind of started to operate with like all that stuff. Cause don't nobody give a fuck about what you got going on.
Except you, and except like I said, I completely understand about protecting your peace and making sure that you know, you don't get out of that because, like I said, you don't want to have to live between you 2 ears all day. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I could barely get that. This was not a topic, by the way. I have no idea. But this is mainly just, I guess this is like a summary of everything we did today.
I'm gonna have to.
So have a lot of fun with that.
there's
Cutting room this week.
By all
like-
means, feel free to chop whatever you need.
Yeah, because there was a lot of good shit in there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll figure out a way to separate it. Yo.
Except for my word of the week.
Yes.
This
What's the word?
particular word I told y'all last week. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
So this week is the letter C, and where's my thingy? Oh, there it is. All right. The the word of the week is crapulent.
Oh, I know this one. I know, like
CRAPULENT. Crapulent.
Oh man. I can't remember what it means, but I remember looking this word up like some years back.
I have nothing on that. I've never even heard that term used.
It's an old school word.
Yeah. What is it? What does it mean? I can't.
It describes the feeling of being hungover.
That's what it. Okay.
When you say you feel crap,
I-
is that when you say someone feels crappy?
If you're feeling crappy, that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah,
The word itself is
crapulence.
crapulent or crapulence. To be experiencing crapulence means like it's like the effects of being like hungover. You just feel like crap.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from.
I used to
she goes
experience
with those what Shakespeare said back in the day.
He
words.
probably did come up with that word. It sounds like a Billy Shakespeare word.
when I used to work
Did
at.
you call him Billy Shakespeare?
Yeah.
It's like whenever somebody was like, "Yo, that Willie Clinton," and I'm like Willie. Like,
That name's probably more appropriate.
Yo, wait, before we close it out, have you seen the commercials for that Cosby doc that's coming on Showtime?
Nah, I haven't.
They're making a documentary?
They're making a doc, and they have some of the accusers, and then they have some of victims. They have some of the victims, and then they have a lot of comedians, and they're talking about
Hannibal
it.
Buress movie on that
But
show?
you know what?
God.
From what I could tell, they talk about the impact of the show.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about how he was perceived and how big of an impact that is, and then they also talk about the bad stuff, which is, as I've said on this podcast before, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, you need
don't
all the
just
shit,
go.
yeah.
Give if you're
everything.
don't just.
'Cause
pick and
the
honey
most
to-
important part about this is how big the difference was between his public image and that crap he was doing behind doors, right? So
Yeah.
you definitely need all that.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated it from that standpoint. Like, at least say what his social impact was and what that show did socially and what he stood for, supposedly in certain areas. And then you can get into all the other seedy stuff and the stuff that you know is going to sell.
Right.
But yeah, I'm completely down for it. You're curious to see how they get it done.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
Alrighty.
Well, this was a behemoth of an episode. So
Yeah,
thanks for hanging with us this long, guys. It'll probably be not nearly as long as it's on the computer right now. But thank you for joining us this week. And we will see you all next week. Be safe and take care of each other and yourselves. Bye.